our favorite show.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Well, it's a good morning. Welcome to our Pan-African Friday. My name is Jagan Asemakola Ziksoka, just right here on our UBC TV. It is the 6th day of May in this year, 2022. Now, it's another very lovely day, another lovely Friday morning. It's cold in Kampala, but we are here to again serve you. We thank you so much for choosing to join us and, of course, to welcome you to our special edition of the Pan-African Friday. Now, this is, it ends our Good Morning Uganda segment. We end it with our Pan-African Friday. It's another very lovely day. Now, joining me in studios today, the usual Pan-African team, and of course, our special guest, the Honorable Member of Parliament, Agnes Kunihira, representing workers in the Parliament of Uganda. You're very welcome, Honorable Kunihira.
Good morning, viewers. I'm Agnes Kunihira, representing workers in the Parliament of Uganda.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for joining us again, Ndugu, comrade, sister, Rachel Witakali. Thank you so much and welcome again.
Thank you.
Happy to have you. Ndugu Rugarama from the Pan-African Movement Uganda, Karibu.
Good morning, viewers, and good morning to you all, my dear colleagues here. I'm always looking forward to this program, and thank you, our viewers, for keeping with us.
Okay, and as usual, Comrade James Mututa here, you're also very welcome.
Asante, and good morning viewers who are following us on UBC and the relative stations and platforms. I say Karibu. Okay,
we're going to talk about the plight of African workers in diaspora, but just before we get into that conversation, I'll start with the Honourable Member of Parliament. A word or two for Labour Day. We had Labour Day on Sunday, and we you know, when we have Women's Day in the month of March, we call it the Women's Month. And I think because we start May with Labour Day, I think it's also called the Labour Month. We'll start with just a message from what we saw. In Kampala, in Uganda, one of the things that we've carried on from Labour Day is the conversation on cassava. We forget about all the other things, and it is cassava, cassava, cassava. Everybody is reminding themselves how they enjoyed cassava, how they should eat cassava, and all the things. In Kenya, it was a different story. Of course, Kenya is in the heat of elections, which are coming on in less than 100 days from now. The president there said, I am actually giving an increment too at the minimum wage. And there was noise covering Nyayo Stadium where the celebrations were. In Tanzania, the other day, one of the opposition leaders, Zito Kabwe of the ACT Wazalendo Party, also comes out to say it should be now. We now need a reduction on prices because we do not have a decent living because of the skyrocketing prices now. That's in Tanzania. I didn't follow what is in Rwanda, but I'm trying to look at what happened in my East African region. Let's start with you, Honorable Kunihira, on Labour Day.
Thank you so much. I agree that we celebrated our day on the 1st May, and this is the Labour Month. But as workers, we have not achieved as we expected. And of course, as you have mentioned, the debate on cassava has covered the whole thing. And also, our theme was not well stated because it brought in the issue of parish development model, which is totally different from the day and the reason we are celebrating. So the whole day was overshadowed by the issue of parish model. But all the same, as workers of this country, we are still looking forward to government. Government should find solutions for workers' issues of salary. The cost of living is very high. Government should strategize on how to help workers out there. Much as the president could not announce the annual increment as Kenya did of 12%, at least he would have announced that we are going to raise the threshold. You are aware that up to now the threshold for taxing payers you earn is at 235. So anybody earning in between there from 235,000 is paying tax. So you may not have cash from government directly to fund that vote, but it could have increased the threshold, maybe to 500. Workers would have also enjoyed like you saw in Kenya. So I still appeal to government to look into workers' issues. We also have an issue of safety at workplaces and job security. Seriously, the majority of workers in Uganda, the majority in the private sector are working as casuals. If you walk in there, even skilled labor, they are working as casuals, and the government has taken an interest in protecting the investors who are coming in. Yes, we appreciate that we must bring as many investors as we can, but they should also give us decent jobs.
Okay, sure. That's very good. Rachel, let me hear you on Labor Day.
Well, Labor Day, I think, has really found us in the very same place that we've been for years and years now. Uganda is unable to create the jobs that we need, and the jobs that are being created are still very much at the low end of the spectrum. Unemployment continues to be a very pressing issue. Underemployment is also a very terrible situation because there are many people who are employed but not as they should be. We find ourselves in a place where the government is struggling to balance increasing the number of gainful opportunities in this country and also externalizing labor to relieve the pressure. There is intense pressure among the youth. People who want to work, but they cannot find a decent opportunity to do so. So the government finds itself in a place where it cannot attract the kind of investors that can lift us out of poverty in the short term. We have people who have added to the employment pool, but as the Honorable Member of Parliament has stated, it is not the vision that we have had for a while now. So it is a place for this country to return to the drawing board. How do we move forward in a gainful fashion? It is not satisfying to create jobs that are worth 50,000 shillings a month in their millions. Those ones are what we have seen until now. And as a result, we are not moving. We desperately need to see movement. And that is really where we are this Labor Day.
Okay. Well, thank you. Nduguru Garama, is there something on Labor Day before we get into the issues of diaspora works?
I still remember up to now how the cassava debate has been going on the social media especially. Our mainstream media, print, electronic, and otherwise, probably has also not helped matters. That habit, that practice, in my opinion, is also not correct. There are a number of issues which the president touched, and he made it clear from the onset that he was not reading from a prepared text, but because himself is a rebara and he defined the category where he belongs. And he has been at it for quite a long time. So he would go on and explain to the public what this labor or laboring is all about. The interesting situation in Uganda, and I have had my two sisters here say something about it, is that we seem not to be making that much desired progress in terms of improving our the employment. Although we have, as a government, made strides in expanding the private sector, bringing in the investors, we still have issues with the kind of investors who come in, and even the kind of jobs which they give our people. So you find that Uganda, in particular, is suffering all forms of unemployment and employment, be it structural, be it all manner of be it disguised unemployment. We are still having that major challenge. And I was listening to the representative of workers. What's the name again? Honorable
Agnes.
Agnes, I couldn't hear.
No. The one at Kororo.
Owere.
Owere,
Yes, Owere.
my OB.
Yes.
He is called Chairman General. Chairman General.
Something like that. Yes. And when he mentioned that his organization or that body caters for, because he was asked the statistics, he mentioned 1.5. Now I'm looking at our workforce, and the 1.5 I think means 1,500,000 people.
Yeah.
Those are the people that
not just
under.
catering for.
Then he said, but potentially 12 million is. Then the president was, no, you stick to yours. You see, that also got me thinking.
Stick to constituency.
I'm like, only 1,500,000 people, and then potentially 12 million. So where do the 12 millions belong? You see, that was my major concern. Maybe to conclude on this, because I know we shall go into the depths of this debate, is that it is not unique to have labor finding its way out of the existing original environment. Historically, we know that in Europe, for instance, be it the Italians, be it the Irish, be it even these Americans you see, for whatever reasons, including the whites in South Africa, they were looking for better conditions. So the argument, for instance, that we are going to have today of our labor, be it same-skilled, and the majority of it in Saudi Arabia, I think, or United Arab Emirates, is sometimes not even skilled at all, because that is not what the market there is looking for anyway. It shouldn't be, we shouldn't castigate those who go there, because it also tells a story about what is actually happening in our own country. So I want to say that labor finding itself away from the original geographical location for better, or what we call green pastures, is okay. What we should work on as a country is to improve our consular relations in those countries where our own labor has gone.
Okay.
I can add something.
Please, Honorable.
Yeah. In fact, in Uganda, if you move around, you'll find that it's the workers who are very poor. compared to other countries. It's supposed to
In
be,
Uganda,
Yes.
the workers are poorer.
very poor. You go and assess them. Very poor.
Then
People working out there, not you, not your level. Go walk around.
yes, the workers. I'm looking at the workers, wherever they are, now in the
Majority.
marketplace and everywhere.
The salaried workers, salaried workers. You know, the other ones are informal workers. But
The salaried workers, we talk about the nurses, the teachers, the
that level,
service-
don't go to these people working in private sector. Walk around Ginger Road, all those factories. If you get them and visit where they sleep, how they feed, what they earn, they can't even pay school fees for their children.
and yet they're working.
And yet they are working every day, moving out of the house to go and earn your 5,000 or 6,000, then come back. As you know, the cost of living now is very high.
It's very high indeed. Well, that's another revelation from the Honorable Member of Parliament. Ndugu Mtuta, Labor Day, firstly, the President was, and you know it is very fashionable to actually quote President Museveni out of context. It went to cassava, now it brought in the European history that we started of the French revolutions of Maria Antoinette and all these others. It's now cassava. The conversation on social media and everywhere, people are now getting back to cassava, and people are actually remembering that cassava has been on our daily menus.
Actually, they are eating a lot of it.
Lately?
I have seen, yes.
Amazing, I've not eaten cassava from Sunday.
People who have been, frying fish along the streets as you go, they have now added their cassava.
In the Karai.
Exactly. So it's another way of promotion of cassava, which is okay.
Okay.
Now, I'm picking it from her. When you are talking about labor, employment, and jobs. Now, and she indeed put it rightly. So the problem is not that maybe there are no jobs. But the other question is, what are the other available options? I mean, if people are still working and they are not any better than those who are working, then are they working? In other words, the definition of work, they need to be looked at, especially in the Ugandan context. But having said that, I'm also aware that this country has a problem of matching the type of skills that we have against the demands of the labor that we need. When we talk about, which we shall talk about later, this export labor, what type of labor are we exporting? Are we exporting this type of profession that cannot be accommodated here? Or are we exporting people who have nothing to do here and they can do it elsewhere? So when we put this into consideration, I agree, and like they have put that the remuneration of those who are in the gainful in the employment may be a problem, because up to today, as a country and the government have not come up with the threshold, the basic, how much should one be paid as a starting. But of course, there are also reasons for that. But I can also tell you that in this country, there's been a lot of mismatch of the professions. Because there are times when people have, the other time we were looking for an engineer who can help in putting up a biogas facility. And we were told the nearest engineer you can get is in Tanzania.
We don't have those engineers here. We don't have those engineers here. With all the many universities that we have.
I visited one of the mining areas in this country, and we found there are some people who are doing engineering, who are doing mining, and were asking about which technology, which knowledge are they using as they mine. then say, no, there is only one person who has been coming around here, and the mining engineer, the one who actually knows how to help people do the mining, the one who has been helping them has been, I think, from Zambia. That in this country, if we have, there are very few.
Okay.
Now, when you look at Uganda as a country, what are our needs today in terms of services? What services do we need? We are looking for people in healthcare. We are looking for teachers. Fine. We are looking for, but who are the bulk of people who are not employed in this country? You find that the disciplines, the courses, the knowledge that they have acquired, we don't need them. At the same time, I have seen friends from families where they're doing very well in farming, in agriculture, but their children are going to school to study mechanical engineering.
With parents who are excelling in agriculture.
Exactly.
And yet they should be doing agriculture engineering.
When you go home, you have no relevance to what your parents are doing.
There is disconnect from what is at home and what they are learning.
The employment which is at home, you cannot make use of it.
Okay.
And yet these parents could be looking for a veterinarian, they could be looking for an extension worker to help them to work on their farm.
Okay. Thank you, Ndugu Mtuta. I think let's now push it to our conversation today of talking about the plight of African immigrants and especially migrant workers now. The statistics when, for example, looking at the Uganda civil service, which is up to about maybe 400,000 employees in all what we call the MDAs. Now, 400,000 out of a population of 40 million is just, I think, 1%. So the government of Uganda can only employ about 1% of its citizens into the civil service. Now the rest of us left there to find a way of how to survive and how to manage and how to do all the things. Things have actually changed. Now, you look and see the very many universities that we have. We have 9 public universities and quite a number of very many private universities across the country. Every year, we release up to about 500,000 graduates from schools, and of course now coming into the job market where we are grappling to find the jobs. What has happened lately is you now find a Ugandan who goes to university, they graduate with a bachelor's degree, and the next thing they're on plan to go to the Arab world, especially, or anywhere in the world where they think they can actually find employment. They applied, and many of these things, what do we think can be done? I will start with you, Rachel Takali, before we hear from the Member of Parliament. Rachel, the plight of African immigrant workers, because they move out of this country to go elsewhere to find what we call greener pastures. And somebody says, I will not take a job of 50,000 shillings that you just talked about in Uganda with a diploma or a master's or with a bachelor's degree or even without education, but I can't make life at 50,000 per month. Let me go find a job elsewhere. And in the long run, then we hear about the many stories, the saddening stories, and the many things that are possibly not even attainable. Let me hear your thoughts on that.
Sometimes when people take up these opportunities, it sounds irrational, as in, why would someone hear these horrific stories and take the next flight to Jordan? But it is not irrational. Allow me to bring this into sharp focus. A maid, on average, in Jordan or Oman, the pay arrangement is generally between $225 to about $300 on average. Saudi is a little higher, maybe about $225 to about $500. I don't know how much the exporting company keeps, but that's on paper. $500 comes to, at today's exchange rate, is about 1.75.
Close to
not up to 1.8 at this today's rates. But that is a lot more than many senior government officials, I have to let you know. We're not talking about the perks, we're not talking about the benefits, we're talking about pay, salary. Now, for someone who's just leaving university, to be able to earn 1.75 outright, even if you're made in Oman, that is if you're not ill-treated, makes quite a bit of sense. Because an entry-level graduate would probably stay at the rate of about 300,000 on average for the foreseeable future. And we are talking foreseeable future with a high inflation rate. Even the things that you could purchase years ago can no longer be bought by 300,000 shillings. That is the reason why there is a net flight of human resource in this country. I have to let you know that many of the people who take those flights are not entry level. There are people who have been midwives for years on end and going nowhere in particular. There are teachers who've been laboring with no significant breakthrough for years on end. So people, it has gotten so bad, people are willing to exchange life for a shot at a decent life. That is where Uganda has sunk to. Remember that youth unemployment in this country, until a few years ago, I don't know about now, was the highest in sub-Saharan Africa.
Is it the 9%?
It's, a number of years ago, it was about 13.3%. Now it is lower, but still, one of the highest in the whole of this region. So the prospects of a better life in this country have been diminishing for many, many years. And even desperate attempts to attract investors have not bridged the gap. The level of investors that we have, sadly, are people who are in it for their own purposes. They definitely don't have the interests of this country at heart. You are asking, where do we go from here? Where we go from here is to make sure that the people that we attract can actually meet our targets. We have had investors at this for many years now who say things they cannot be. They say they have capital and then they end up in downtown, you know, also sewing masks. We have these people, they're here. Some of them are from China, some of them are from India. They're competing with Mama Jane, sewing masks. Those folks should be on the next flight back to wherever they came from, because they have breached the trust that we placed in them. What we are saying, and what I'm trying to say, is that the level of the mechanisms that we have in place are inadequate. The willingness to enforce these mechanisms is even worse. Remember, there is a unit in this country that is responsible for the whole arrangement that is called the externalization of labor. There is such a unit that was established in 2005 in the Ministry of Gender by such statutory instrument 62 of 2005. But that unit has not made that much difference. Think that to date, Madam Kunihira could let me know if there's been a difference. We have bilateral agreements, as far as I know, concerning externalization of labor between Saudi and Jordan only. Has it improved?
Exactly. Not many. Not so many countries in the Arab world.
And yet, most
UAE
has been added of late. That is a meaningful improvement. Because many of these countries where people end up, there is no way of monitoring, because arrangements don't exist between our two countries. We're talking of people who end up in
Kuwait,
Qatar, Oman, Bahrain. Years ago, it was Afghanistan and Iraq. I think because of the US withdrawal, I think there's not so much in terms of labor going to those countries. But what we are saying is that Uganda has many things that start out well, but execution is always a problem. Externalization of labor is not in itself a bad thing, but you have to have stringent follow-up. You have to have robust mechanisms to make sure that the welfare of your people is actually just that. In other words, if someone should remit money for a season, maybe they remit $300 to their families and so on, and come back in a coffin, I don't know which is better. We have not followed up to make sure, because it is not about the Gulf. It is not their responsibility to cater for the welfare of Ugandans. For them, they want human beings working round the clock if need be, drop dead on your feet if need be, as long as their economy is going where it should be. So it is upon us to do our part and we're not doing well.
Honorable Member of Parliament, where does it take us when you find people, there are stories on social media, there are stories on radios, there are stories on TVs, there are stories in newspapers of people who are being ill-treated in these jobs elsewhere, and people cry about all these very bad things. Then the other day, you drive and go to the international airport and see a whole host of so many girls going. These are all privy to the treatment that they're going to. And it's just a game of chances, saying, if she was mistreated or if he was mistreated, let me try my luck and see. What is this thing that gets people to selling their own property? They sell land here, they sell houses, they sell what they have, they invested in education, and education is very expensive here. Somebody looks at, they've gone through this whole exercise up to university, they've graduated, and the next thing is, let me sell what I can, find a ticket, find a visa, and go. I'll try my luck out there. What is this thing, and what do you think we need to do, especially when it comes now to you, the policymakers, you who make laws for us, and you who plan for this country?
Thank you so much. First of all, at policy level, I think government needs to do a little more. If you have assessed very well on the investments taking place, the same category of investors are not going beyond what they started on. For example, after somebody has constructed a company making profits, they instead take away all the profits. I think government must also look into that the profits you make, percentage of it must be used to expand maybe even in other regions, to create more jobs. On the issue of our people moving out, you all know that we migrated from the villages. When you are mature and you want to work, even your parent cannot keep you home.
They can't stop you.
You know, they can't stop you. You have to move and come and look for jobs. Fortunately enough for us, when we were young, we just moved to Kampala and got jobs.
Because there are jobs in Kampala. Greener pastures were in Kampala. But for now, we have limited jobs. The pasture has been depleted in Kampala.
It has been depleted, and we have very few jobs. That's why you're finding our young people. They are in categories. Those girls you are seeing who are going to work as maids, most of them hold degrees. Yes.
They are educated girls and
boys. They are very educated, but they are desperate. They must work, they must survive. Some have also to care for their parents. Your parent cared for you when you were young to that level. Now you need to go and work and come and help your parents. So you find them going. Government has tried to get bilateral agreements with some few countries. Unlike other countries like Philippines, we one time visited Philippines to understand how these things work. For them, they have even a ministry. When you reach the airport, there is even a desk for the migrant workers. All their workers are in their system. They can be traced to every country where they go. What we have not done. See, here most of the people going are finding their own ways. More especially the other skilled workers like teachers, like nurses, like doctors. They find their own ways. And it has been so for quite some time until this other creative business came of recruitment companies. Before people were moving out, people would go, you would hear they are in Cheyo, in London, in USA, all over, but they were going on their own. When this business became lucrative, now it comes with more risks to our people. Much as these people who go to work pay, or as you have said, they sell their land, some sell, some the companies are supposed to facilitate them. But when you go to a country like Saudi Arabia, much as they've tried to bring on board the reforms in their labor system in their country, they still have that system of kafala something.
The kafala
so
system,
it's like they have bought you.
The kafala system.
The kafala system.
And I think the biggest challenge, or the biggest challenge of Ugandans, is adopting to the kafala system.
That's the thing.
And it's a system they have it, yes.
So there you are a property. The man has put the employer. And almost 80% of the jobs in Saudi Arabia are from the private sector. Government jobs are done by their own people. These other jobs of suffering are done by the people imported from other countries, and they are still using that kafala system. So you are a property. So for our people to go there,
it's basically domestic work that the majority go to do,
yes,
especially.
So that domestic work, you become a property, And our people have not yet adapted to such a situation. So you find they are suffering. The truth is they are suffering, but they must survive. They must return something, as she has mentioned, either $300 or $200 or what, they must do that. So to me, the country still has a lot of things to do. One is to emphasize, like Philippines has done with, if you mistreat them, they will recall all their people, or they stop supplying you with that labor in your country, which we have not done yet. Another thing, we need to see how to regulate these recruitment companies, because they get a lot of money from the employers that end, and for them they just sacrifice you. You go and find your ways, go and suffer. For us, we have made our business. Philippines, the country handles, the Ministry of Labor and the migrant workers handles everything. Even here, if you may recall those days, the Ministry of Labor used to have a section where they would look for jobs, those days, where people would take their applications and they get placements. Even some employers would write to Ministry of Labor to get them the quality of people they would want. So if government takes over the responsibility, to me I would think it would be far, far better than surrendering everything to the private companies to do what they want. That small money they are making, government can also earn it from the services they give, looking for jobs with those countries. And when the country has signed an agreement and it is them supplying these young people to go and work, I think maybe the situation would be different.
Okay. Ndugu Rugarama, come to the conversation here. You remember the days of, when you look into the liberation of Africa, the days of the Mwalimu Kambarage Nyerere, Dr. Apollo Milton Obote here in Uganda and several others. Just getting out of the continent of Africa to go and find any work anywhere in Europe and everywhere, it was a taboo, it was actually forceful to get people from here to go. We now find Ugandans or Africans actually drowning and in rivers and oceans and all these things. The other day I was actually watching a program on one of the African TVs in Nigeria, and there were these children that were got from Nigeria. They were actually rescued by somebody. They were put into something like cargo. They were put into something like cargo, girls, boys. And they lived in some stuff for about complete 3 weeks, surviving on just a bottle of water like that. And then, it was a whole thing. They were saved somewhere. I don't even remember where they saved, but they saved, I think, in Libya. They were saved somewhere in Libya. And all of these were gotten from some place, I think in Abeokuta in Nigeria, being taken to places. They were being traded just like that. Now, all of them scampered to go and find some jobs elsewhere. Where did we miss the opportunity, Ndugu Rugarama, that this is not the Africa that our forefathers envisaged, and this is where we are today? What needs to be done?
Comrade Jagenda and dear viewers, I started off here by telling a little story about the history of migration. People move for a number of reasons, but the bottom line is that if it is not for tourism and adventure, people move to get better services. Africa has not been characteristically a continent that moves. We know that Europe, for instance, has moved within itself and outside of itself, including the America. We know, for instance, that the Italians, the Irish, the present day Americans who are proud of their country are not natives in America. Certain factors triggered their movement, and they moved there and they established a country, or for that matter, they found a place which they called theirs, and they formed themselves into a group of the so-called founding fathers, and there they are. They have created a paradise called America. we have got countries here in Europe whose population is largely not the natives. But there are a number of reasons, either civil wars or wanting to better their lives, which triggered their movement, and they did move it. I would have no trouble, like I said from the start, with the young African men and women moving away from Africa if it is for purposes of bettering themselves and at the same time probably bettering their continent. The big debate here, of course I wouldn't want to go into it because it would consume a lot of time, is that Africa has gone through what it has gone through majorly because this is not, like you said, what our forefathers, the Kwame Nkrumahs, thought when they were delivering Africa from the fangs of colonialism. They wanted to create a continent where the young and the old, men and women, would enjoy, and they would not have any reason to move out of this continent for purposes of thinking that there was a better world outside Africa. But that hasn't been the case. Certainly, issues of imperialism, neo-colonialism, issues of the economic policies unfriendly that have been practiced through the World Bank, International Monetary Fund, are at play, and they have not left us. If anything, they are hardening the grip on a majority of our countries. But like I said, when you go into that debate, it will be much wider and it will take a lot of time. Suffice to say that coming back home, I was trying to carry out some investigation since this topic came to us, to look at exactly, is it the Ugandans or the Kenyans who are the biggest, register their biggest presence in the United Arab Emirates and these other Middle East countries as workers? Then I realized that countries like, and Honorable Kunhira brought it, the Philippines, the countries, but the first word is India. India has got majority of her people in the Middle East. Are they also subjected to the kind of treatment they subject, for instance, to Africans? My investigation discovered that that is not the case. Question is why? I realized that a country like Egypt also comes around number 3 there in terms of its labor force being in the Middle East. Are the Egyptians subjected to the kind of untold suffering like the black Africa is subjected to? The answer is no. Then, therefore, what is the problem? I found that the problem is as follows. One, with due respect, is leadership. Leadership, by lack, our government must provide better leadership about her people who move out. You see, you cannot sustain an argument that people just escaped, they needed to go through proper channels. Where did they pass? They went through porous borders. These people passed through, majority of them. I was moving to the other Easter about 2 years ago or so, to Korea, Pyongyang, and on Ethiopian Airlines, there was, I ran into a group of people who were dressed like Muslims. I was like, now this is serious. And all of them we are singing this song, Katonda yabadde mwene ensonga.
That's what they're all singing.
Then I was, what is this now? So after some time, I realized somebody whispered to me, said, you see, this is a group, they are going to Middle East. And of course it was now Entebbe, then Ethiopia.
Addis Ababa,
Bole
Bole Airport.
Yes, Bole International Airport, then they would get
Bole
into
then
the
to the Middle East.
Yes. You can imagine a group of young men and women, and like Honorable Kunhira and Sister here said, some of them even are graduates. Some of them are, they have been doing some work, either as teachers or nurses, and it has not been making any, they haven't been making any progress. They are now fatigued. They are like, no, let's try our luck elsewhere. People are singing their way into slavery.
Modern day.
This is not proper. Comrade Jagenda and our dear viewers, this is not proper. And it should not be. Leadership must come in. I'm glad that Honorable Kunhira here and my sister just next to me have ably brought in discussion the issue of our recruitment agencies. I have had about 8 cases so far, which I'm handling of the young men and women in Saudi. Yeah, I think should be Saudi. They are taken, and immediately they reach at the airport, passports are confiscated from them. The Kayungirizi, the agent, is actually a Ugandan who is there.
Okay.
And there is a network. These are the equivalent of Brutus. You remember this? Was it Shylock? I think it was Shylock, the one who wanted a pound of flesh from the closest of the heart. They are not having any feelings for anybody. Our youth go into prostitution. We have had very telling stories from those who have been there. I have had an opportunity to interact with those young men, young women. The so-called private recruiting agencies
yes,
are nothing but highway robbers of our human resource. They are interested, and the people who are running them are not small men like you and me.
And you see the challenge with that is when you even start talking against them, they will look for you to either give you money or silence you or do anything. And you wonder and say, why do you want to give me money not to foster somebody's cause? Why don't you give that person money?
I wish they can bring it, because they will bring it, then I will continue talking.
Oh.
Say that they can up maybe.
They will
because you
silence
see,
you somewhere.
Ndugu Jagenda, this is a very serious. Let me say this. I've gotten an opportunity. Let me say it this way: that unless government reigns on these recruitment, I have heard the number of them which were listed, that these ones they have removed the licenses, but they remain behind and operate behind the curtains. They keep recruiting, and we have got. It is also correct, like my panelists here have said, that the parents sell the land, they sell cows and goats to have these people sent out. Now, when they reach, not all of them actually get jobs.
Okay.
And the idea should be that by the time I live here, my job should be there.
Okay.
But they are put in houses. They are like warehouses. You can imagine the temperatures in that part of the world. They are put in houses, then there is a lot that they are subjected to, including telling them that they are people of bad luck, those who don't get jobs very quickly. Even the so-called jobs they are talking about, I want to tell you that the percentages which our recruitment agencies here, the private ones, take is way out of this world. Because I was also investigating, and I realized that, for instance, an equivalent of 3 1.2 million shillings to be paid to a young lady. A young lady here, actually they take 800. Majority of these people, it is 800.
From 3.2.
Yes, the recruiting agencies and the agents in there take more than 65% of what is the entitlement of these young boys and young girls. I'm telling you. And whoever thinks I'm lying, take me on.
Okay.
I have got a lot of evidence. Let me conclude on this by saying that we need government to come in here and come in seriously. The treatment we are getting as the black continent, even to the Arabs, who we are better than them by far, let the conditions be created here to make sure we have got a lot of potential, and we are only talking about potential. I don't know when we are going to actualize it in agriculture. We have got absolutely no reasons as to why we should be having boys dying in Mediterranean Sea. We are even being ridiculed recently when I saw this Boris, what is his other name, of Prime Minister of Britain, saying that those who are running to go to Britain,
the UK should go to Rwanda.
They are going to be, they have struck a deal now with Rwanda. They are going to be brought to Rwanda.
You go to the UK, then they bring you to Rwanda.
The same people were claiming that Rwanda does not have any human rights record to speak of. Now, those people they are bringing, assuming they are actually political asylum seekers, how are they going to cope with such as they are the ones who said it?
What about jobs? Do they have the jobs?
This is another thing. In other words, therefore, you can see like Honorable here is asking a very serious question here. That does Rwanda now have the jobs which these people would be going to look for in Britain? The truth of the matter is that we have got a lot of pretense, hypocrisy, and we are not going to continue like this in the global world that we are living in. Time has come where Africa must define her position. We must fix a number of things, either peacefully or forcefully.
Okay, thank you very much. It's 10 o'clock exactly. We'll just take a break and return, continue with our conversation for the next 1 hour on our Pan-African Friday today. And of course, with me in studios is Nduguru Garama from the Pan-African Movement Uganda, Rachel Takali, our own panelist here at UBC, and of course, our guest today is the Honorable Agnes Kunihira, the Member of Parliament, representing workers in the 11th Parliament, and Ndugu James Mututo, the usual Pan-Africanist, with us here. We'll take a break and return shortly.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebrations.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On GoTV. Love it.
It's no secret that ICT makes learning easy. The strides made in our field could not be possible without it.
And now we can watch our favorite shows.
My radio is my best friend.
UCC provides an enabling regulatory environment and policy guidance for healthy competition. We also facilitate ease of doing business in the communications sector through licensing, standardization, spectrum management, tariff regulation, rural communication development, and consumer empowerment. An informed consumer is an empowered consumer. UCC supports local content and innovations. Driving the development of a robust communication sector in Uganda is Uganda Communications Commission.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Yes, it is the Pan-African Friday. Welcome back from that short break. My name is Jagenda Semakola Ziksoka. Carrying on and continuing, talking about African immigrants and, of course, the plight of African immigrant workers wherever they are in the world. And looking, of course, at everybody, our biggest concern is, of course, about Uganda, but it's not just a Ugandan problem. It is an African problem. And we're just trying to find answers to a very simple question of what opportunities did we miss, what went wrong, and what do we think our policy makers can actually do to help salvage and save the very bad situation. The potential of Africa is actually wasted now into what we see, and without very good or tangible results. Ndugu Mtuta, let me also hear your thoughts. I've heard from the other panelists. What do you have to say about immigrant workers? You've traversed the globe, and I know you've met some somewhere. And what are your thoughts?
For me, if a relative, and my relatives have told most of them who have ever talked to me about having their child going for Cheyo, particularly in the Arab world, I've told them don't. Of course, we have people who have worked in the diaspora. We have people, Ugandans and Africans who have lived in Europe and who have lived in the countries like the US and the, Australia and other parts of the world. And they have made a fortune. We have had doctors, we have having professors, we have. Now, these are people who cannot go to the Arab world. Like I think a member said, we are better off than some of these guys. Now, when your child goes to the Arab world, people, you know, when this subject comes up, I feel bad. What are they going to do? You are talking about a person getting maybe 300 or 400 is in Uganda. But you're also looking at the decency with which you are doing that job. It may be giving you that little money, but you walk with that dignity. It may not be giving you that much money that will enable you to drive a vehicle, but you are talking about a girl who is taken from here to Saudi Arabia. Particularly Saudi Arabia has been notorious. Tomorrow they will intoxicate this girl. She finds herself in a hospital without a kidney or a boy. And because her passport has been removed from her, she has no phone, she has no person to talk to, and she continues in that pain. And that's why you saw last time one was committed. The one who committed suicide is just one of them. There are many who have committed suicide, and because we don't know. But we have had cases, even as we speak, there are parents who have lost their children, they come back with those parts removed. So if a person using this, they call it kafala or whatever business.
The kafala system.
They, when they buy this girl or this boy, they have bought a property like a goat. And it is at their discretion to do whatever they want to do with this goat.
Yeah, because when you buy your phone, it's you who knows what to do with your phone. You can
now, it is true that some of these people have the mafias, who are trafficking people from this country. Some of these companies, you see a recruitment company, they come and take people. But when you of course, until recently, we have seen many of them, their directors are arrested because actually they are not. Some of them are not registered, or if they are registered by government, they have been faulting on the number of conditions. I personally knew of a girl. Parents came to me and said, this is a girl who was taken, but when she sent her pictures, all her hands were like burnt. For whatever detergent she was using to wash clothes, we don't know. But I know the people, the officers at gender were very cooperative, and the embassy in Saudi Arabia, and we managed to bring this girl back home, and she's sick. But how many of those girls cannot make that effort, that call to someone who can help them? There are many. So I think, for me, I don't even know up to now why we're still allowing people to go there.
Yeah, but you see, we're not giving them anything. And somebody's saying, if I'm not getting anything here, then why wouldn't I try my luck out there?
But what are you giving them?
They know about the problems that are happening elsewhere, but they're saying, let's go and try
because
our
at the same time, we're not giving them anything better. But what I agree and believe, like the colleagues have said, I think government needs to take up this sector. That we know that we are sending 100 people to Saudi Arabia. Of course, they're going to be house girls or these security guards,
or drivers,
wherever, and we know where they are. If they are sick, they can send back the message to government, and we can know who is sick, and then the embassy can access them and find out. Most of these people, even because there were some of them, later on a few who are taken by genuine agencies. A lot of them are, when they are trafficked and they are put in that house, like she said, in the evening, because you get stuck there for 1 month and there's no work, and they are rationing you the little food that you are getting, and then the men will come in the evening and pay for the beautiful ones to go and have time with. So and you have no choice over yourself. Now the other bad thing is that when that happens,